Welcome to Bronze and Modern Gods. Me llamo Juan. ¿Y tú?
Me llamo Richard.
Oh, hey, we speak Spanish. Hey, everybody, welcome. It is a day late, not quite $1 short, but we're here with you because we want to talk about prepping for Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con is coming up, believe it or not, late next week. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. It's here, and it's also convention season. So even if you're not making it to Comic-Con proper, we're going to teach you how to get ready for any Comic-Con that comes your way. And as always, our regular features, underrated books of the week, 25-year rule, and our hot book of the week. I'm going to do this one, Richard.
Go ahead.
It's a huge celebration. It's all about Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. Our hot book of the week is Thor 126, the first issue proper for Thor. Now, you all are very knowledgeable people that listen to this podcast, so I don't have to tell you that Thor first appeared in a title called Journey into Mystery with issue 83, and Journey into Mystery cover featured Thor from issue 83 to issue 125, and then the title changed to Thor. I don't have to tell you people that, even though I just did. This is the second appearance of Hercules after his first appearance. That's weird how second appearances work. In Journey into Mystery Annual #1, Richard. I have not seen Thor Love and Thunder yet, but I want to thank each and every one of you who DM'd me, texted me, and ruined it for me. I want to thank all of you so much for telling me about the end credit sequence, especially people like Tim Powers and Evan Nave. I want to shout them out specific. No, you guys didn't tell me. You hinted heavily, though, that I needed to see it.
I still have not seen it. I have managed to avoid spoilers. I want to go see it this week. So nothing. Don't tell me anything.
Well, then I don't know if I should tell you. It's kind of obvious why this is the hot book of the week. Plenty of eBay sales this past week of Thor 126, both raw and slabbed, from $850 for a CBCS 9.0 all the way down to $23.50 for a low-grade copy with a big chunk out of the front cover. This book is all over the place, but lots of sales in the past week after Thor Love and Thunder opened up.
Now, I know you have the Journey into Mystery Annual #1. I remember when you actually sent that in to be graded back in 2019. But do you have a 126?
I do. I have a couple of them. The highest grade I have is a 6.5, though. I kind of wish I'd upgraded a little earlier than this. It's a tough book and grade for some reason. I think people for the long time didn't care about Thor as much as we love Thor now. Kind of there with Iron Man as a B-lister for a long time. I mean, how many cosmic storylines for Thor can you handle where he and Sif and the Warriors 3 get in a big boat and sail across the cosmos looking for something? I mean, that happened every other arc.
Well, the these and thous, I think, were kind of a barrier to him really becoming super popular.
Verily, thou art wrong, Richard.
I am so glad they ditched all that kind of stuff.
Thou art mistaken. Richard, thou ignorant slutteth. No, I agree with you. The faux Shakespearean thing was cute. I have a great Thor story. This is the power of comic books when you're a child or when you're younger. I was in 3rd grade, Mrs. Porter's class at Erie Elementary School in Elyria, Ohio. And we had to write a paper. And on my paper, I used the word omnipotent. And I used it correctly. And Mrs. Porter asked me to stay when everyone else went to recess. And she said, Johnny, I have to ask you, did you have help writing your paper? And I was scared. I'm like, no, Mrs. Porter, why? Well, you used this word here. And that's a really grown-up word. And I said, omnipotent? That's what Thor is. Thor is omnipotent. And I explained to her that I learned the word omnipotent from Thor comic books and what it meant. I used it in context. And she's like, that's really impressive. By the way, it's pronounced omnipotent. And I was like, what? Okay, there's my story.
Well, awesome. Yeah. Comic books have a great effect on kids. They introduce them to complete storylines. They introduce them to all kinds of vocabulary words, as you indicated. I think the continuation of kids reading comic books, not just adults, is an important thing.
They also introduced me to lots of sex and violence. Thank you, comics.
And yes, half clad women should not wear clothes apparently in most comic books from the era.
Women. Hey, time for viewer mail. Let's pause for Stan to say, we've got mail.
You've got mail.
Thank you, Stan. This first piece of viewer mail was inspired by a submission from Diesel Dan Comics on Instagram. If you are not following Diesel Dan Comics, please do. Really funny memes. Great guy. We will see him. I will see him at San Diego Comic-Con in a week. And he asked how we get ready for Comic-Con, if we had any tips for getting ready and preparing for a big convention. And I thought that's a really good topic for an entire show. We're not going to do the entire show on it because I don't think there's enough to talk about, but I do have some tips that I have learned from years of attending Comic-Cons. The first one I will tell you is a more recent development, and that is phone charging. You will not find an outlet anywhere. Stop telling yourself that I'm going to bring my charger and I'm going to charge my phone. You're living in a fool's paradise if you think that. The real solution is, at least for an iPhone, if you have a mag iPhone, is use a mag charger as a backup. Bring the little iPhone battery backup that connects right to your phone magnetically. Problem solved, especially if you're capturing content. A little more obvious thing, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. Don't wear high heels, Richard.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, don't wear your Christian Louboutins. Wear some comfortable shoes. I highly recommend, because I'm an old man, the Adidas cloudy, fluffy ones. What do you have?
Get a comfortable backpack. I think the backpack is really, really important. Use the backpack to store things like it has pouches for your water. But more importantly, you're going to take your purchases, and instead of carrying them around in your hand where they can get jostled, bent, and damaged, you're going to put them in your backpack. But you're not going to put them just raw in your backpack. You're going to buy one of the BCW store folios. These are nice hard cases that open up. You can slide your raw comics into it. And then once they're inside of that, put that inside your backpack. And because that will protect it from being damaged in the backpack through this normal jostling.
I recommend buying 2 of those store folios, one to take with you at the convention floor, fill it up, and then you have an extra empty one that you leave in your hotel room and you swap it out after you fill up the first one. And that way you can carry twice the amount of books when you leave. And if you're flying into San Diego and you plan on buying a lot of books and you're worried about how they're going to ship back, I learned something along with Raphael when we went down to Mexico City a couple of times, is if you get one of those big canvas tote bags that a lot of dealers give out or give away, a short box will fit in a canvas tote bag. And then that short box in the canvas tote bag as a carry-on to your plane will fit in the overhead bin. You slide it in lengthwise. It goes right in there. No one at the airport will stop you. TSA won't stop you. They'll look at it and they'll go, "Do you collect comics?" And you'll have this little conversation about how his mom threw all his comics away when he was a kid. And but that is a tip for flyers who don't want to pack their books in their suitcase. I always bring them in the carry-on. I will not pack it in a suitcase.
Totally agree.
Yeah, if you're trying to find a hotel for San Diego specifically, Minor Keys Comics messaged me today, in fact, and said, "Hey, I'm getting a hotel room. I got a vendor badge at the last second. What can I do?" And I said, "Make sure you listen to tomorrow's show." Don't be afraid of there are still hotels available in the hotel lottery. And don't be afraid of the hotels in an area called Mission Valley or by the Bay. There are still rooms available. They're a little far out. They're about 3 or 4 miles from the convention center. However, there are shuttles that run back and forth to the convention center almost in a 20-minute interval for every hotel, which is great because they run all day and all night too. I mean, they don't stop at like 6 p.m. They run well into the night. And that way your hotel's a little cheaper. And if you're prepared for the shuttle, you can get familiar with the color code for your hotel, and you need to learn how often they run. But we never stay downtown. The only time we've ever stayed downtown was with Richard in November, when we got lucky because no one was going.
Oh, that was glorious, because we literally walked across the street to Hall H.
Yeah, that was a unique experience for sure. The other thing about hotels, if you're sharing a hotel with people, be respectful of your hotel roommates. If you are a cosplayer, do not bring 800 boxes of boots and costumes and take over the hotel room and take over the hotel room bathroom with all of your makeup and everything. You're sharing a room. I shouldn't have to say this, but I've had that experience, Richard.
Yes, I remember that experience. Wasn't me.
It cost a friendship.
It did.
But just so you know, I like your next one because you're guilty of this, and it's also a good tip.
Yeah. Never carry loose cash in your pocket. By that, I mean, get a wad of money and shove it in your pocket and walk around a convention floor that way. That is not the way.
And flash it to everybody every time you make a purchase.
Everybody, right? No,
you're in Vegas at Lucille's strip club or something.
Yeah, I have been guilty of being the Mo Money guy with all the money in my hands. You don't want to do that for a number of reasons. One, you want to keep track of your money. You want to know how much money you have for each purchase and how much money you have left. You also don't want to flash around to a lot of people that you got a lot of cash, because that just invites pickpockets and all kinds of miscreants to bother you. What I do, I go to the bank, I get the cash withdrawn, nice crisp bills. I leave the money in the envelope I get from the bank. And I take that envelope and put it in my pocket. Now, when I want money, I reach into the envelope and pull the money. I don't take all the big wad of money out. I take whatever bills I need out of the envelope, and then pay for whatever I'm purchasing, and then put the change back in. So that way you have all your money in one spot. It's not flashing it, you're not showing it around. And I find if I just have wads of money in my pocket, the money somehow magically spends itself much more fast than if I have money in some kind of organized system. So be cognizant of your money, and for goodness sake, don't flash $100 bills. I've been guilty of that when you're out there buying.
Don't keep your wallet and your phone in your back pocket either. The convention floor gets very busy. People bump up against you. Hands go places. Wallets and phones disappear. There is nothing nerdier than having your wallet in your front pocket and your phone in your other pocket. This is a place for nerds. Who cares? Be a nerd. Along those lines, don't put valuables in the outside pockets of your backpack. Those things unzip very easily in a crowd. Hands go where they shouldn't. Anything valuable, zip it on the interior of your backpack or on the inside of your backpack. And I can't believe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you make a good point about the phone. The one thing that I learned when we're doing conventions is I always have my phone in my hand. It's a terrible habit, but I always do, because I'm looking up prices or I'm doing something with it. Before you leave a booth, make sure you have your phone on you.
Yes.
You put it down and you go buy something, and you will forget. You will forget that you put your phone down. Make sure, I always have, spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. I always make sure I have my keys, my wallet, and my phone before I move on, because nothing is more embarrassing to come back and frantically look for your phone that you left somewhere in the hall.
Yeah, and for you tech-minded people out there, a little AirTag in your backpack is not a bad idea either. In case your backpack goes missing, you can track it down. I can't believe I have to say this next one, this final one in the year of our Lord 2022. But I'm going to say it anyway because it is still a problem. It is such a cliche. It's such an awful thing to bring up. But please, for the sake of everyone around you, shower and wear deodorant. I know, everybody's wincing. It's such a stereotype, but it's true. That place gets hot. The AC and circulation is not the best. We get a little funky. You know, when you get funky, if you get funky, hop on the shuttle, go back and take a shower. No one wants to smell your man funk.
And if you look at it this way, if you smell pretty, you usually get better prices than if you don't.
And you also get, maybe you meet someone and you don't smell funky. Notice I didn't mention this one to the ladies. The ladies know how to take care of themselves. It's the guys that, you got to scrape that funk off. Yeah, don't do it. All right. All right. Enough of that. Richard, what is your next piece of humor? Thanks. By the way, thanks, Diesel Dan, for that.
Yeah, my first viewer mail is from Gino's Comics. And this is talking about the wonderful changes that CGC introduced by allowing their Graders Notes to be free now to everyone. It's awesome. I agree it's a step in the right direction, especially for some transparency. I still had some questions I shared that I imagine others had too. One of them was about the prominent members of the community from before. So apparently there were prominent members that requested a change to the label for CGC to show less information.
You believe that for 1 second?
I think they needed prominent members and they magically appeared. I don't think people were actually actively requesting that this change be made. I think this is something someone in the hierarchy wanted to have happen, and they created the circumstances for it to happen. But I don't think there was any prominent members in the community who were actively asking. We want less information. We want less things to show up on the labels.
Or, in case we missed it, if they did, they haven't come forward at all. But all right, go on.
Yeah. So he wants to know, who are they and what role do they play in this change? And that's a very good question. I would love for, CGC was looking for transparency, step up and let us know who was requesting the change. Maybe that person or those people can step forward and give us an explanation of how they feel this adds value.
It'll never happen. Who's gonna raise their hand and say, "Hey, I had that really crappy idea"?
Yeah. Not now. Now that it's pretty much been shot down by the community that's vocal. I don't think anybody's ever going to step forward and claim being one of those prominent members.
All right, my next piece of viewer mail comes to us from Robert Houchins on Instagram. Robert, I hope I am pronouncing your last name correctly. Hi there. Love the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
It takes me back to my younger comic shop days, learning new stuff from the comic guys that always hung around. Quick question about the cover art craze. Jumped back into the comic world last year after having taken a 20-year break. I noticed the recent trend of collecting comics based on the cover, whether it's for the artist or the variant craze. Do you think this is a good or bad thing for the hobby? I love collecting books by certain artists, but only for their cover art? I collect mainly for the art aspect, but I miss the days when all of the artwork, cover and guts, were done by one fantastic artist. I guess it's more of a long rant, just seeking some other opinions. Take care. Robert, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, yes, people are collecting for covers now in a lot of respects. Think about Batman 423 with that Todd McFarlane cover. Things like that sat around for years that no one was interested in. Now McFarlane is McFarlane, and people want to go back and get those classic covers. You also have people like Art Adams he hasn't done a regular book in years, but he's doing tons of covers. Here's my take on why that is. They don't pay. It doesn't pay to spend all of your month doing 22, 23 pages of interior art for Marvel or DC at their page rates that they are currently. That's why you have not that many names anymore doing the guts and all of the big names doing the covers, because the cover is the money shot. The cover pays more. You can sell it for more on the open market. You can't sell original art anymore because it's all being done digitally on the guts inside. Right. So yeah, that's why you see all this really, I don't know, I'm going to sound like an old man when I say this, but really cartoony art and anime inspired art inside, because it's real easy and quick to friggin' do it that way.
Yeah. You're a huge Kirby fan. I know you are.
Yes.
And I don't see the interior artwork done to that level Kirby could do quick, but he could do detailed, and he could do energy. And I don't see interior art really. I see it degenerating and taking advantage of its digital. Therefore, we could take shortcuts. I don't want to gloss over everybody because people like Frank Miller still do some really amazing things. But I'm a big fan of comic book covers. I buy books. I just bought this one from Steven and Bryce Comics had a sale this weekend, and this was one of the books that was up. It's Tarot number 1. This is a David Yakamaya. Yakamaya. I have trouble pronouncing his name.
Sorry, David. We forgive us, please.
Yeah, sorry, David. David Yakamaya.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, it's David. Anyway, it's a gorgeous cover. It's Scarlet Witch, and it's an infinity, recursive image on the cover. I've been looking for this for a while. I have no interest in reading the story, to be completely honest with you.
You bought it slabbed.
I bought it slabbed, right? I bought it for the cover, and I love comic book art because comic book artists have a very limited venue to express ideas. Unlike the inside of a book where you've got 32 pages, you can express an idea. A cover artist has just the cover to get across an idea, and I love.
But are they using the cover to express ideas anymore? I don't even see that. I see pinups.
Okay, yeah, I could see that too. Yeah.
Remember when the cover would show the situation inside of the book, like, I'm hanging from this, Spider-Man's hanging from the Statue of Liberty holding on to J. Jonah Jameson while the Punisher is trying to help him up while the Hitman is ready to shoot them all. It told a story and it intrigued you, and you were like, oh, I want to read what's inside.
You're right. You're talking about, Copper Age back, you get those kinds of covers. Nowadays, it's all store exclusive, pin art.
God, we sound old. God, we sound old.
No, but it's fine. It's good. I still buy them. I paid good money for this book because I love the art. One of my favorite covers, you mentioned Art Adams, Young Allies number 6, the 1 in 10 variant.
Everybody take a drink. Richard mentioned it.
Yes, I mention this book all the time. Absolutely gorgeous cover. I could care less about the story. It's the cover and the exclusive. It's a limited, a scarce comic book.
It's tough to find.
Yeah. But no, I am unabashedly a fan of cover art. I'm a fan of good girl art, and I think that there is no one valid way to collect comics. And I think it's really the way a person collects has to do with their personalities, their upbringing, and what they want to get out of the hobby. And for me, I'm kind of I like the covers. I also like the classic books. And that's me. And I will not apologize for liking covers.
Anyone's reason for collecting is absolutely valid. It really is. I would put the challenge to you guys in the comments. Who is doing interior art, not cover art? Who's doing interior art that we need to check out? What are we missing? Because I'm sure we are missing something. Because, we're set in our ways and we're buying copper and bronze stuff and we're buying moderns just for the covers and we're putting them away. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to say I have not read Captain America since the whole Hydra thing.
Oh, wow.
I stopped. The Nick Spencer run was the last straw for me, and I still buy it every month. I've got, a short box full of modern caps from 2015 on, every iteration, every miniseries, and I haven't read them. So tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us where we need to be looking. All right, Rich.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would love to know what artists do we need to learn more about.
Exactly. We have the same piece of viewer mail worded in different ways next. So you go first.
Okay. My piece is Scott Talks Comics. He asks, and again, talking about the CGC changes, this is a step in the right direction. Now, how about those Newton rings?
Meanwhile, I have a message from Minuteman Comics on Instagram that says, hi, gang, I'm going to ask you this question as frustration is growing and growing. And this is a good place to ask the question, does anyone at CGC care about Newton rings? A nice 15-book lot just shipped this week and it arrived today. After joking about, let's see how many of these have Newton rings, I pull the first one. There it is. A massive glowing ring right in the middle of the case. The worst type where you could run a finger on it and it fills up almost the entire case. I just called customer service asking if there's anyone in quality control I can talk to. After a lengthy delay, she apologized and said there was not. She did file a complaint on my behalf and did the usual about how I can go ahead and return them. Richard, you want to take both of these first? You do round one. I'll do round two.
Well, first of all, for people who don't know what Newton rings are, there is an inner well in a slab. It's a plastic case. It's a kind of like an envelope that surrounds the comic, that protects the comic within the plastic outer case. And that case is sealed. And what happens is sometimes you get a reaction between the cover and that inner plastic lining, and it results in a series of rings, kind of like
oil stain.
Yeah,
it kind of looks like a greasy oil stain. Yeah.
It's not anything that actually affects the book, but when you're looking at the slab and you look at it at for certain angles, or you'll end up seeing those rings. Now, this particular book does not have it. Frankly,
I've been lucky. I've gotten a lot of submissions back in the last month. I haven't had many. I've had a couple, but not a lot.
I haven't seen very many myself. I've heard of various ways of fixing it yourself, applying some suction to the case and being actually able to pop it so that
I'm going to have to do a how-to on that. I can show people how to do that.
Okay. Yeah. It is a problem. So ongoing problem. And as Minuteman Comic mentions, people get a shipment of books in and then end up sending half of them back because they can't tolerate those Newton rings. And it's, to me, I've never had one serious enough that I considered sending it back. My Ultimate Fallout 4 Djevik version has a Newton ring, and I look at it and to me, it's not a big enough deal for me to ever ship it back to CGC. I refuse to let them touch that book. Yeah. So it really is what your tolerance is of it and what your purpose is. If you're planning on keeping it for a personal collection, I would be more tolerant of it. If you're planning on selling it, then I may put more emphasis on getting it corrected because the buyer may not want to see it. But it is a subjective issue. CGC doesn't consider it apparently a real problem because they don't put any active effort into solving it. This has been a problem for years. You would think they would change the materials that they use in that inner well to be less, susceptible to these kinds of rings.
All right, here's my hot take. Prepare yourselves. They don't bug me whatsoever. I know. Come at me. Because the CGC case is just that. It's a protective case to protect your book. Now, understand people like Richard love to display their books on a shelf and show off their books, and they don't want those unsightly Newton rings to spoil it. But that's like, I don't know. It's like complaining that your short box that you keep your books in has a stain on it, and you want them. Maybe that's oversimplifying it. It never bugged me. It just doesn't bug me.
I have never had I've seen some examples of Newton rings that are absolutely horrid. Because the oil stain look and the cover mixed so it looks like the cover is splotchy or has some kind of stain on it. That I would have a problem with. But most of the books that I have, they've come back. I've done 50, 60 submissions with CGC this year. And I can't think of one of them that I saw and said, ew, I can't deal with this. I need to send this back.
There are little mini suction cups that you can buy at Home Depot or in Lowe's where you take mini suctions, not big ones, little mini suction cups, put them on either side of the case and pull very gently, and the Newton ring magically disappears. Now, it also comes back sometimes, so you have to be prepared for that. It is not a foolproof, solve forever thing. But if you don't want to look at it and you can pull it apart a little bit, you can do it, but don't expect it to be a permanent fix.
Hey, here's a question for the audience. People who collect CBCS books, do you see a similar problem with Newton rings for CBCS or even PGX, or is this exclusive to the materials that CGC uses?
From everything I've seen online, this tends to be a CGC exclusive. Maybe they should change the marketing to like, you can only get these here. Get your rings here.
Or CBCS, who's lacking in marketing acumen completely, should advertise the fact that they don't have that issue and highlight that CGC does. Yet another marketing tool that CBCS just doesn't seem to use.
Charge them, Richard. Stop giving them stuff for free. Oh, remember the days before slabs and Newton rings when you could go back 25 years to 1997, blah, 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 25-year rule. Yeah, segue. 25-year this week, 25-year rule this week is going back to 1997 with a kind of milestone book, Donald Duck 300, Richard. This was a double-sized anniversary issue celebrating the long 40-plus year run for Donald Duck. But just 7 issues later, Donald Duck would go on hiatus, i.e. be canceled. What, Donald? The title would be revived 6 years later, picking up the legacy numbering with issue 308, with a slight title tweak to Donald Duck and Friends. After a few years of that, took another 3-year break before being revived by Boom Studios and running to issue number 367 in 2011. Now, in a final indignity that's perfect for the character of Donald Duck, Donald was not even featured on the cover of that last issue from Boom. It's all about the nephews and Uncle Scrooge. But then the book moved over to IDW, which published Donald until number 388 in June of 2017. Can you believe there's not a Donald Duck book being published right now?
I can believe it. I am surprised it lasted to 2017. I don't think Donald Duck is relevant anymore to the kids today. This is not a book that a middle-aged man is going to read, or woman.
Well, I would think a middle-aged man would be the only audience for Donald Duck.
I would, it's Donald is trapped in terms of the complexity of the stories he can tell to a certain age group, in my opinion. You're never going to have them. It's still you're never going to run across any adult situations in a Donald Duck comic book. It just doesn't happen. So I'm surprised. Pardon?
My proposed reboot with Daisy. You have not read it yet.
Oh God, no.
I want to get Warren Ellis to write it.
This to me is like Richie Rich or any of the Harvey books. They are great in context of their time, back in the 60s, 70s, but I just don't see their relevancy in 2022. It's like I said, I'm surprised it lasted till 2017. I think it's a historically great character. I just don't see it in the age of Marvel and the kind of characters that are popular today.
Everyone say it with me. Richard, you ignorant slut. No, I see what you're saying. However, I do think Donald, Daisy, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Uncle Scrooge, Gyro Gearloose. I said his name backwards. All these characters, Mickey Mouse, there's Disneyland, there's Disney World. This is about to fall in public domain, apparently. That's another reason to keep publishing it, to keep that copyright secure. But these Disney characters are everywhere, Richard. The merchandising is still there. I still think, and when you say that middle-aged people will not read Donald Duck, I actually think that's the only audience that would read Donald Duck. Because
yeah, potentially you're right. I just, in terms of the books that our audience would read, I feel this is something that is an outlier. I love the concept of Donald Duck, and you're right. As a marketing tool, that Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck days, they all have a place in Disney's IP.
Mhm.
But once you reach a certain age, it becomes nostalgia. It doesn't become something that you read because you want to follow the latest story of Donald Duck. You go back and you read the stories that you were, when you were in the age group that was appropriate for Donald Duck, which may be 25 years ago.
It's real simple. If they sold, they'd still be being published. They'd still be published. Marvel farms out kids titles to IDW all day long. Star Wars Adventures, Marvel Action, all that stuff. And IDW was publishing Donald Duck till 2017, and it just must not sell, which is sad because you're such an important historical legacy with Carl Barks, Don Rosa, all these great epic Uncle Scrooge adventures that inspired DuckTales. Oh, woohoo! So it just bums me out that there's no Disney comics. Would I buy them? No, but it
No,
bums me out anyway.
no, it doesn't bum me out. I look at it as a historical character. I look at Bugs Bunny as a historical character. The Looney Tunes comic books from back in the day.
Which DC is still publishing, by the way.
Yeah. I just while it's not relevant to today, it has an important part in a lot of people's upbringing. I grew up, Disneyland was the Mecca, and to go to Disneyland and to experience the Disney, intellectual property was an important part of growing up. And therefore I have a reverence towards these characters, but it doesn't mean I'm going to collect them, or it doesn't mean that I'm going to read them. And I know my children have not read anything, or even I doubt they even know who Daisy is. They'll know Donald, they'll know Mickey and Goofy, and any other characters beyond that. They have no idea who Richie Rich is.
Well, you have to think about it. Your kids one just graduated and another is graduating next year, correct?
2 years from now, right?
2 years from now. DuckTales was in the 90s. Darkwing Duck was in the 90s before they were even born, you guys. Disney Channel was around still, I guess, but it was more about Hannah Montana and the live action stuff by the time your kids came around. Oh, let's get off this.
Teen Titans Go. That's what they grew up with.
Not only that, but you're talking about things that tickle people in their childhood. We're going to go over to our underrated books of the week, and you have one that is really prime for nostalgia.
Yeah, my pick this week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4.
Number
4. I've talked about #2. I think the first 4 books of the main series, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the Raphael micro series are really important books. They're oversized, they're magazine-sized books, they're black and white, they're printed on basically newsprint, and they are the original story in the format that the original writers, Kevin Eastman and Laird, that they wanted the book to be put out. Well, what they could afford to put it out with is really how it works. This book is, like I said, the 4th book. It's in the series. Is the last book in this larger format. At book number 5, they go to a comic book format. But the last sale for a 9.8 of the first print of this book was $552 in June, which I find
way down, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's such a bargain. I think a 9.6 was going for $360. It has been trending down for the past few months. Part of it is just the way our economy works. I think there's a little bit of malaise for turtles right now, but turtles are we talked about characters like Donald Duck that are important characters and are part of a lot of people's childhood. The turtles have resurrected themselves and have been relevant to generation after generation of kids since the mid 80s.
I was going to say the turtles are evergreen.
It's bad, John. Can't tell.
I'm sorry, everybody. I apologize.
But they are just as relevant, in my opinion, today as they were in this original issue number 4, and therefore I think it's always a safe bet to buy Turtles 1 through 4. I think that the values of these books are going to be consistent, if not increasing. And it's just a good, especially if you're an 80s kid like John and I, it was a revelation when this book came out. I remember when Turtles number 2 came out, which is when I first really started to pay attention to the Turtles. It was a different kind of comic book. Indie books were becoming something really important. And the fact that this book had, came out of the blue and had these strong characters that didn't fit the mold, it made fun of a lot of different genres. That's what it really did, is combine different genres into a single group of characters. I loved it back then. I still buy Turtles now. And I think, my kids know who Turtles, the Turtles are. And I think their kids will have an exposure to them as well. So I think there's a lot of long lasting value in this book. And at $552 for a 9.8, I to me, it's a no brainer. If I had seen that, I would have bought it, instantly.
I know I've sold one for much more than that in the summer of explosions, as we call 2021.
Yeah.
So it is by the dip. Good point.
Yep.
My underrated book of the week is Uncanny X-Men number 158, which is the second appearance of Rogue. Or is it? Yes, Rogue first appeared in Avengers Annual number 10. This was her second appearance. However, it is absolutely tied with her appearance in ROM number 31. ROM number 31 came out March 9th, 1982, with a cover date of June. And X-Men 158 came out on March 9th, 1982, with a cover date of June. And in fact, I have a little scan here from the Comic Reader fanzine, issue 199, that has the date that this came out. Now, this is going to be your pick. Which one do you want to think is the second appearance of Rogue? While she's on both covers, I'm going to give the X-Men cover where she's given Wolverine a big wallop the edge.
Yeah.
However, okay, you agree. However, hold on. The 90-day average on GPA for a 9.8 for X-Men 158 is $300. For ROM 31, it's $353. You could argue ROM number 31 is more desirable, as it will never be reprinted, because ROM was licensed from Parker Brothers based on a toy that lasted maybe 4 months in the market and died a quick death. The comic went on to live for 75 issues. However, for some reason, Marvel cannot get those rights back to ROM. Every time they try to reprint something, they have to skip, like Marvel 2-in-1, they have to skip the ROM issue with the Thing. So, it's a bummer. So if you want to roll your dice on ROM 31, because it has never been reprinted and probably never will be, that's your choice. I think X-Men 158 is better though.
If I had both of them, I could sell the X-Men faster than I could sell the ROM.
That's true.
If you're looking for resell, X-Men will always trump ROM. And I think the X-Men, I'm a huge X-Men fan. I think X-Men is one of the pivotal books in my personal history, especially the Claremont years. So I think it's a more important book from that standpoint, from the fact that it's an X-Men book and it's a part of that, of that Claremont storyline. The ROM book, I really don't have any experience with. I mean, is it a part of some kind of ongoing story, or is it just a one-off that she appears?
Well, Freedom Force comes after ROM, and it's written by Bill Mantlo and drawn by Sal Buscema, so it's not like the Claremont Cockrum team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like he's trying to do what he can to boost ROM and throw in some mutants here and there. So it's not really a relevant thing, although the Dire Wraiths show up, and Rogue has some things with the Dire Wraiths, and that kind of comes up later in the X-Men title around the 180s when the Dire Wraiths show up from ROM. So there was always a tie-in there. But as Rogue would say, I'm inclined to agree with you, sugar.
Yeah.
You knew you were waiting for my bad Rogue.
Yes, it's the one good thing from the movie. They got rid of the Southern drawl.
I disagree with that, sugar. All right, that is gonna thankfully wrap it up for us today. Make sure you follow us at Broads and Modern Gods on Facebook and Instagram. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to subscribe, we'd love you for it. It helps the channel, and tell a friend, and do something nice today, Richard. You know what you should do today? You should leave a nice comment on someone's Instagram or their Facebook or their YouTube.
Right.
Right?
Not tell them to go to YouTube, to go to eBay, and
We're gonna go. We will see you next time.
everybody stay safe.